The silver bullet tears through the night sky like a falling star, and I know the hunters have found us again. My foot slams the brake pedal, tires screaming against asphalt as the van skids sideways across the mountain road. The headlights catch them emerging from the trees, three trucks blocking the narrow pass, their engines idling like predators waiting for prey. My hands grip the steering wheel tighter, knuckles turning white as I calculate the impossible gap between their vehicles and the cliff edge. If Primal Shifter romance is your thing, hit subscribe. Back to the story. The impact comes from the left, metal crunching against metal as a hunter truck T-bones us. My head snaps sideways, vision blurring as the van spins across the gravel shoulder. Through the cracked windshield, I watch the hunters advancing with rifles raised, their silhouettes framed by the headlights behind them. The pups in the back whimper, small bodies pressing against the crates as they sense the danger closing in. I reach for the glove compartment where I keep the emergency flare, fingers trembling as I pop it open. Then I see him crawling from the wreckage of the lead truck, a man with dark hair matted with blood, his shirt torn open to reveal a chest marked by fresh claw wounds. He moves with the fluid grace of a wolf despite his injuries, dragging himself toward the tree line as silver smoke begins rising from the overturned vehicle. My breath catches as recognition floods through me, though his face remains unfamiliar. The collar around his neck has been ripped away, leaving raw skin beneath, and something in my chest pulls me toward him like iron filings to a magnet. "Get to the back," I tell the pups, my voice steady despite the chaos outside. "Stay quiet no matter what you hear." I shove open the driver's door and sprint toward the wounded man, gravel spraying beneath my worn sneakers. The hunters shout warnings to each other, their boots pounding against the road as they realize their target is escaping. The man's eyes meet mine as I approach, hazel flecked with gold, pupils dilated with pain and something wilder. He tries to speak, but blood bubbles from his lips instead, his body collapsing against the rough bark of a pine tree. The silver canister rolls from the truck bed, hissing as it releases its toxic payload into the night air. I grab the man's arm and haul him deeper into the forest, his weight nearly pulling me down as branches whip against my face. Behind us, the hunters' voices grow more distant, confused by the smoke and their missing prey. The man's breathing grows shallow, each exhale coming harder than the last as we stumble through the undergrowth. "Stay with me," I whisper, adjusting my grip around his broad shoulders. "Whatever you are, whatever they did to you, stay with me." His head lolls against my neck as we collapse behind a fallen log, his lips brushing the sensitive skin there. The contact sends electricity racing through my veins, my wolf stirring restlessly beneath my skin in response to his proximity. The man's fingers find my wrist, holding tight as if I'm his anchor to consciousness, his thumb tracing the pulse point that hammers beneath his touch. In the distance, the hunters' flashlights sweep through the trees, beams of light cutting through the darkness as they search for their escaped quarry. The silver poisoning works through his system, stealing memories and strength with each passing minute. I press my palm against his chest, feeling the erratic rhythm of his heart as it struggles against the toxic metal. My power rises unbidden, the gift that draws orphaned pups and broken wolves to my side like moths to flame. The man's eyes flutter closed, his grip loosening as consciousness slips away, leaving me alone in the forest with a dying stranger who somehow feels like home. The forest floor trembles beneath my knees as headlights spear through the underbrush, engines roaring closer, while I drag the stranger's dead weight toward deeper shadow. My shoulder screams where the seatbelt cut flesh, but I haul him by the armpits, fingers slipping against bare skin slick with blood that smells wrong, metallic and sharp like the silver still burning in his veins. Branches whip my face, leaving thin stings that pale beside the certainty that hunters will kill anything between them and their prey. And right now that prey is the unconscious man whose pulse flutters against my forearm like a trapped moth. I taste iron on my tongue, feel the night air crackle with the same static that always heralds violence, and I know I cannot outrun trucks on foot, yet I run anyway because stopping means death for both of us. A root catches my ankle, sending us sprawling across moss that drinks his blood like rainwater. The man's head lolls, revealing a throat bare of any collar that might name him Pack or Pride. Only a leather cord holding a single black stone that pulses once with dull heat against my knuckle where I steady him. Voices slice the darkness behind us, hunters calling coordinates in clipped code that chills my marrow more thoroughly than winter wind, and I shove to my feet while hauling his torso upright against a fallen log. My power unfurls without permission, the invisible tether that once drew orphan pups to my porch now stretching toward these trees, searching for any wolf spirit still breathing, finding only him and the ache blooming in my own chest like bruised wings. The first shot cracks overhead, splintering bark into my hair, and I throw myself across the stranger, because instinct insists he matters even though memory offers no reason. His eyes snap open, pupils blown wide, reflecting moonlight in animal shine that steals what little breath I have left. For one heartbeat he stares through me, past me, as though reading futures written on the air itself, then his hand clamps around my wrist with strength that belies his injuries. "Run," he growls, voice gravel and smoke, yet the word carries authority that makes my bones vibrate like struck bells. I want to obey, want to sprint until lungs burst, but I wrench free instead because leaving him feels like tearing out part of my own soul, and I refuse to lose any more pieces of myself tonight. I loop his arm across my shoulders, rising together while bullets chew the forest around us, and his weight settles against my side like he was carved to fit there. We stagger deeper into shadow, my boots finding deer trails I never learned yet somehow know, each step guided by something older than thought. The hunters fan out, flashlights slicing white scars through darkness, and I taste their excitement, the sour tang of men who enjoy pursuit more than capture. My companion stumbles, knee buckling, and I catch him against my body, feeling muscle ripple beneath torn skin, feeling also the moment his heart skips, poison threading closer to whatever core keeps him alive. I press my palm over the wound in his shoulder, letting heat bleed from my center into him, trading strength for time we do not have. A cliff face looms sudden as a slammed door, cutting off escape, and I whirl to face the approaching lights, chest heaving while the man beside me straightens slowly, as if remembering bones used to carry crowns. "Stay behind me," he orders, voice low, and something in the cadence snags recognition I cannot place before headlights blind us both. 3 trucks skid into the clearing, doors flying open, hunters spilling like ants from a kicked hill, rifles already tracking. I count 7 muzzles, maybe 8, every one loaded with silver that will shred flesh and memory alike, and I know I cannot shield us both. Yet I spread my arms anyway because the thought of him dying hurts worse than any bullet ever could. The nearest hunter laughs, a sound like breaking glass, and steps forward while cradling a sawed-off shotgun that gleams with the particular dullness of pure silver slugs. "King Caius," he sneers, making the name both taunt and verdict, and my heart stalls because that name belongs to legends of a ruler who united the scattered packs. A man vanished 3 years ago after silver rebels brought down his court. The stranger beside me does not flinch at the title, but I feel the jolt travel through his bones into mine, feel recognition slam home like a fist between my ribs. Memory crashes over me, summers spent listening to elders whisper of a wolf king who walked as man and beast, who forged peace with his claws and kept it with his word, who disappeared the night silver conspirators murdered his kin and left him for dead in these very mountains. King Caius steps forward, placing himself between me and the guns, shoulders squared despite blood soaking his shirt dark as midnight. "Let the woman go," he says, each word edged with command that once made alphas kneel, though now his voice wavers like candle flame in wind. The hunters respond by racking rounds into chambers, metallic clicks echoing off stone, and I see the moment they realize his memory truly is gone. Their eyes brighten with predatory glee at the prospect of executing a king who cannot remember his crown. I slide my hand into his, squeezing once in lieu of words I cannot shape around the terror clawing my throat, and he squeezes back as though we have stood like this for lifetimes instead of minutes. The shotgun lifts, barrel centering on his chest, and I move without thought, stepping in front of him while my power surges outward in a visible ripple that rattles rifle scopes and flashlight lenses alike. Trees groan, earth shivers, and for an instant the clearing feels like the heart of a storm, every breath held waiting for lightning. "Touch him again and I will scatter your bones across these ridges," I whisper, voice carrying farther than physics allow, carrying also the weight of every wolf I have ever sheltered, every broken cub I raised into warrior. The hunters hesitate, fingers tightening on triggers, yet none fire because something in my tone promises ruin wrapped in flesh they cannot name. King Caius uses their hesitation, spinning me behind him while his free hand claws empty air, drawing moonlight into a shimmering arc that solidifies into a blade of pure argent energy. A weapon I have seen only in stories of kings who could call the moon's own silver to serve. He swings the blade in a low arc, severing shotgun barrels before their owner can react, then reverses the motion, carving rifles from grasping hands with impossible speed. Sparks shower the clearing, metal singing like tuning forks, and I watch 7 trained killers stumble backward from one wounded man who moves with lethal grace belying his injuries. My chest swells with something fierce and protective, something that wants to guard the sight of him fighting for us even as blood seeps faster through the dressing I pressed to his skin moments ago. A pistol cracks from the darkness, bullet finding flesh with sickening impact, and King Caius staggers, blade flickering like faulty neon before reforming weaker, thinner. I catch him as he sways, feeling the tremor that rattles his spine, feeling also the moment silver spreads deeper, stealing coordination along with memory. Enough, I breathe against his ear, tasting sweat and smoke, tasting also the wild, electric certainty that I will burn these mountains to ash before I let him fall. I call my power again, not as shield but as summons, sending a silent howl rippling through soil and stone, through root and branch, calling every wolf spirit within miles to witness and remember even if we do not survive the night. The forest answers with rustling that swells into movement, shadows detaching from deeper shadows, eyes gleaming amber and green and gold. Wolves slip between trunks, not the massive shifters of legend but their smaller cousins, yet dozens strong, drawn by grief older than language, drawn also by promise of justice long denied. They circle the clearing, low growls weaving into a single voice that makes hunter blood run cold, and I feel King Caius straighten against me, something ancient stirring behind his fractured gaze. He lifts the moonblade higher, letting light catch the symbol etched along its length, crown entwined with paw print, the sigil of a ruler who stood for both man and beast. And for the first time since the crash, recognition flickers across his face like sunrise on still water. The hunters break, scrambling toward their trucks while firing wild shots that scatter wolves but do not stop them, and I taste their fear, sour and satisfying. King Caius starts after them, blade raised for final strike, but his knee buckles and the weapon dissolves into sparks that drift like fireflies before winking out. I catch him before he hits dirt, cradling his head in my lap while engines roar and tires spit gravel, trucks vanishing into night as cowardly as they arrived. Silence rushes back, broken only by wolves panting and the ragged pull of his breathing, each inhale shallower than the last while silver works its cruel arithmetic inside his veins. I press both palms to the wound, pouring heat, and will into him, trading my strength for his survival. His blood soaks through my jeans, warm and wrong, carrying the metallic bite of silver that makes my stomach lurch with each pulse against my palms. I tear strips from my shirt, wrapping them tight around the wound in his shoulder, while his breathing hitches and stutters like a broken engine. The forest presses close around us, dark branches reaching down like claws as I scan for any sign of movement, any glint of headlights through the trees that might mean the hunters doubled back. My own ribs scream with each breath, the seatbelt bruise blooming purple across my chest, but I push the pain aside and focus on the man bleeding out in my lap. His eyes flutter open, revealing irises the color of aged whiskey, and for a moment they focus on my face with an intensity that makes my hands still against his skin. Then the clarity fades, replaced by confusion that clouds his features as he tries to push himself upright, only to fall back with a groan that tears through my chest. I steady him with hands that shouldn't feel this natural against his skin, shouldn't know the exact way to support his weight, as if I've done this 1,000 times before tonight. The thought sends ice through my veins, because I know I haven't. Know that until 20 minutes ago, I'd never seen this man before in my life, yet something in my bones recognizes him like coming home. "We need to move," I whisper, though my throat feels raw with smoke and fear, and I slide my arms beneath his shoulders to help him sit. His muscles tense beneath my touch, coiled strength even injured, and I feel the moment he decides to trust me because his weight shifts into my support instead of away. The movement sends fresh blood seeping through the makeshift bandage, dark against his skin in the moonlight that filters through the canopy above. I loop his arm across my shoulders, his fingers gripping my jacket with surprising force as we struggle to our feet together, two broken things leaning against each other in the darkness. The first howl rises from somewhere behind us, close enough to make my heart stutter against my ribs, and I know the hunters have released their tracking wolves. King Caius stiffens against me, his head turning toward the sound with an instinctive snarl that rumbles through his chest and into mine where we're pressed together. His lips pull back to reveal teeth that look normal but feel predatory in the way he scents the air, nostrils flaring as he processes information I can't access. Another howl answers the first, this one from our left, and I feel him catalog the positions like a general planning retreat, his hand finding mine in the darkness and squeezing once before releasing. This way, he rasps, his voice rough with pain, but carrying an authority that makes me follow without question as he pulls us deeper into the forest. His steps are unsteady at first, each one sending tremors through his body that I feel against my side, but he gains strength as we move, as if the forest itself feeds him something essential. I keep one arm wrapped around his waist, feeling the heat radiating from his skin even through his shirt. Heat that seems to pulse in rhythm with my own heartbeat, though I know that should be impossible. Branches catch at my hair and scratch my arms as we push through undergrowth, but I barely register the sting, too focused on the man beside me who shouldn't be walking, shouldn't be leading us anywhere with a silver bullet lodged near his spine. The ground rises beneath our feet as we climb, his breathing growing steadier while mine grows more labored, the altitude and adrenaline combining to make my head spin. He seems to sense my struggling because his pace slows, his hand finding my elbow to steady me when I stumble over a root hidden in the leaf litter. When I glance at his face, I catch him watching me with those whiskey eyes that hold too much knowledge, too much understanding of what it costs me to keep moving when every instinct screams at me to run alone. His thumb traces across the inside of my wrist where my pulse hammers against his touch, and for a moment the forest fades until there's only the warmth of his skin and the weight of something neither of us can name passing between us. A beam of light cuts through the trees below us, sweeping across the forest floor in methodical arcs that tell me the hunters have reached the wreck. I pull him down behind a fallen log, our bodies pressed close in the small space as we watch the light move closer, closer, until I can hear voices carried on the night wind. King Caius's hand finds mine in the darkness, his fingers threading through mine with a familiarity that makes my breath catch, and I realize he's shielding me with his body, putting himself between me and potential bullets. The gesture sends something hot and dangerous through my chest, because no one has protected me since I was 12 years old, since the night my parents died and left me alone with monsters that walked on two legs. They're tracking your blood, I breathe against his ear, tasting smoke and pine and something uniquely him on my tongue as I speak. His grip tightens on my hand, acknowledgement without words because we both know what that means, know that every step he takes leaves a trail that leads straight to us. He turns his head until his lips brush my temple, not quite a kiss but more than breath, and I feel the moment he makes his decision in the way his muscles coil beneath my touch. Before I can process his intent, he's moving, pulling me up and forward again, but this time his steps angle us across the slope instead of up, following a path that makes no sense until I smell water ahead. The stream appears like magic through the trees, silver in the moonlight as it cuts across our path, and I understand his plan with a clarity that makes my stomach drop. Silver poisoning works through the blood, through the scent markers carried in every drop that falls from his wound, but water changes everything. Without hesitation, he steps into the cold water, pulling me with him as we wade upstream, the current tugging at our legs while the water washes away the blood trail that would lead hunters straight to us. His hand never leaves mine as we move against the flow, our steps careful on slick stones while the forest holds its breath around us, waiting to see if this desperate gambit will buy us enough distance to survive until dawn. When we finally emerge on the far bank, water streaming from our clothes and hair, he collapses to his knees in the soft earth, the last of his strength spent on keeping us moving. I drop beside him, my hands finding his face in the darkness, as I tilt it toward moonlight that reveals lips gone gray with blood loss, skin pale as bone where it isn't streaked with crimson. His eyes meet mine, and in them I see acceptance of something I refuse to acknowledge, see the moment he makes peace with whatever ending this forest holds for him. My chest tightens until I can't breathe around the weight of it, can't accept that this stranger who feels like the other half of my soul might die in the dirt with only me to witness his passing. Don't, I whisper, my voice breaking as I press my forehead to his, feeling the heat that still burns beneath his skin despite the cold water soaking our clothes. Don't you dare give up on me now, King Caius, not when I just found you. The name slips out like a prayer, like a spell cast in desperation, and I feel the moment it hits him because his entire body goes still beneath my hands. When he pulls back to look at me, his eyes have shifted in the moonlight, pupils blown wide until they swallow the whiskey color and leave only gold burning in their depths, wild and hungry and not entirely human. The gold in his eyes burns hotter, and I feel the shift starting beneath my palms as his bones begin to move. My hands fly back from his chest like I've been scalded, but there's nowhere to run in this tiny clearing with hunters circling somewhere beyond the trees. His breath comes in ragged gasps that sound more like growls, and when his jaw cracks audibly, I know I'm watching a man tear apart at the seams. King Caius, you need to hold it together, I whisper, pressing my back against the rough bark of the nearest pine. The silver poisoning should be killing him, but instead it's tearing his human skin away piece by piece. His fingers elongate into claws that scrape against the rocky ground, and the sound sends ice through my veins. When his spine arches impossibly backward, I can see the bullet wound in his shoulder already knitting itself closed as fur begins to sprout along the edges. The hunters' voices echo closer through the forest, maybe 200 yards out and closing fast. They're methodical, sweeping in formation like they've done this 100 times before. King Caius's transformation accelerates, his clothes ripping as his body expands beyond human proportions. His face stretches forward into a muzzle, and when he opens his mouth, the sound that emerges is pure animal fury that makes the night birds explode from their roosts. I should run. Every instinct screams at me to flee, while this monster finishes its birth in front of me. Instead, I find myself stepping closer, drawn by something I don't understand as his golden eyes track my movement. His fur is black as midnight, and when he rises to his full height on 4 massive paws, his shoulder comes up to my chest. The wolf stands between me and the direction of the hunters, his hackles raised in a ridge of bristling protection. You're not going to eat me, are you? The question slips out before I can stop it, and the wolf's ears flick backward at the sound of my voice. He turns his massive head toward me, and I see intelligence burning behind those golden eyes that goes far beyond mere animal instinct. When he lowers his head and growls softly, I realize he's telling me to get behind him. The first hunter breaks through the trees 20 yards away, rifle raised and ready. He hasn't seen us yet, but it's only a matter of seconds before the moonlight reveals our position. King Caius's wolf body goes rigid, muscles coiling like springs ready to launch. I can feel the tension radiating from him, the barely contained violence waiting to explode toward the threat. The hunter turns, his eyes widening as he spots us in the shadows. His mouth opens to shout, but the sound never emerges because King Caius launches himself across the clearing in a blur of black fur and lethal intent. The rifle fires once, the shot going wild as 200 pounds of werewolf slams into the man's chest. They crash backward into the undergrowth, and I hear the wet tearing sounds that will haunt my dreams forever. More hunters crash through the trees, drawn by the gunshot and the sounds of struggle. 3 men armed with what look like assault rifles fan out in tactical formation, their weapons tracking for targets. When they see the wolf tearing into their companion, they don't hesitate. Bullets rip through the night air, and I watch in horror as several rounds slam into King Caius's side. He doesn't even slow down. The wolf whips around toward the new threat, his muzzle dripping crimson as he releases the dead hunter's throat. The bullets that should have dropped him seem to barely register as they punch into his hide. He moves faster than anything natural, closing the distance to the nearest gunman in 3 bounding strides. I press myself deeper into the shadows, knowing that any second one of those bullets could find me instead. The hunters are focused entirely on the supernatural threat tearing through their ranks, and I use their distraction to slip sideways through the trees. My feet find the deer path I'd spotted earlier, and I force myself to move quietly despite the chaos behind me. The sound of automatic weapons fire echoes off the mountainside, followed by screams that cut off abruptly. I don't look back. Whatever King Caius has become, he's buying me time to escape, and I won't waste his sacrifice even if every fiber of my being screams that I should stay. The path winds downward through increasingly dense forest, and I let gravity pull me faster as the sounds of battle fade behind me. My foot catches on a root hidden in the darkness, sending me sprawling across the leaf-strewn ground. My hands scrape across rocks and broken branches, the pain sharp and immediate. When I push myself up, I freeze at the sound of breathing that doesn't belong to me. Slowly, I turn my head to find golden eyes glowing in the darkness, not 10 feet away. King Caius stands in human form, completely naked and covered in blood that isn't his own. His chest rises and falls with each breath, and even in the dim moonlight, I can see the bullet wounds already healing across his skin. The silver poisoning seems to have burned away during his transformation, leaving him whole and impossibly vital. When he steps closer, I see his eyes are still more gold than brown, the wolf lingering just beneath his human surface. "You ran," he says, his voice rough and deeper than before. There's something different in his tone now, something wild that makes my stomach clench with recognition I can't place. "I thought you were dead," I whisper, my throat suddenly dry as he approaches. The blood covering his skin should terrify me, but instead I feel an answering heat building low in my belly. When he crouches beside me, I smell pine and copper and something uniquely male that makes my head spin. "Not dead," he murmurs, one hand reaching to cup my face with surprising gentleness. His thumb traces across my cheekbone, and I realize he's wiping away blood I hadn't noticed. "Changed. The silver forced the shift, but it couldn't kill me. Nothing can kill me anymore, not while you're near." His words make no sense, but the way he says them sends electricity racing across my skin. When he leans closer, I don't pull away even though every rational thought screams that I should. His breath fans warm across my lips, and I feel the vibration of his growl deep in my bones. "You're the Omega Magnet," he breathes against my mouth, and the term sends confusion flooding through me. "Every alpha for 100 miles can feel you calling, Lyra. You don't even know what you are, do you?" Before I can respond, his lips crash against mine with a hunger that steals my breath. The kiss tastes of violence and wilderness, and something that feels like coming home. My hands rise to press against his bare chest, and I feel his heart hammering against my palms in the same frantic rhythm as my own. When he finally pulls back, we're both breathing hard and the forest has gone silent around us. "I need to take you somewhere safe," he says, standing in one fluid motion before pulling me to my feet. His strength seems effortless, and when he keeps hold of my hand, I don't try to pull away. "My fortress in the mountains. The hunters won't stop, not now that they know you exist." "No, I exist," I repeat, still dazed from his kiss and the revelation that I somehow called him across miles of wilderness. "What am I?" His golden eyes meet mine, and I see something vulnerable flicker across his features before his expression hardens again. "You're the last piece of a puzzle I thought was lost forever," he says quietly. "And I'm going to chain you to my wall until I figure out exactly what that means." The chain snaps against my wrist before I can jerk away, cold iron biting into skin as King Caius yanks me toward the stone archway leading into the mountain stronghold. His blood still soaks my clothes, the silver poison making his grip tremble against my arm, but his pace never slows as we cross the threshold into torchlit corridors that smell of damp earth and old battles. I stumble over the uneven stones, my free hand scraping along the wall for balance, while the sound of distant howling echoes through the passageway behind us. "Move!" he growls, his voice rough with the effort of holding back the change that wants to rip through him, and I feel his bones shifting beneath the skin where my shoulder brushes his arm. The transformation that started in the clearing still claws at him, making his breath come in ragged gasps as we descend deeper into the mountain's belly, where the air grows thick with the scent of wolf, and something older that makes my stomach clench with recognition I can't name. My feet find the rhythm of his stride despite the chain between us, and I realize he's matching his pace to mine rather than dragging me like a captive. The corridor opens into a vast chamber where maps cover every wall, their edges yellowed, and corners weighted with stones that have kept track of territories and battles longer than I've been alive. King Caius releases the chain only to clamp his hand around my waist, pulling me against him as he studies the largest map, where red pins mark positions around the mountain's base, each one representing hunters who followed us through the forest and now waited his borders like wolves at a wounded deer's throat. His chest rises and falls against my back, and I feel the heat of his fever through our clothes as the silver works deeper into his blood. "They found the southern pass," he says, his finger tracing the route we barely escaped, and I watch fresh blood seep through the makeshift bandage I tied around his shoulder. The wound should have killed him by now, but instead it seems to be burning him from the inside out, making his skin too hot where it touches mine. 3 trucks, maybe more, and they brought the kind of firepower that can drop an alpha in mid-leap. I want to ask how he knows this, how he can speak so calmly while dying by degrees, but the words die in my throat as the sound of claws against stone echoes from the corridor we just left. King Caius stiffens against me, his hand tightening on my hip as we both turn toward the sound of something moving through his stronghold with the confidence of ownership rather than intrusion. The torches flicker as shadows pass, and I catch glimpses of figures that move like men but cast shadows like wolves on the walls. Rival pack, he breathes against my ear, his lips brushing the shell of it as he speaks, and I feel his heartbeat racing to match my own. They must have tracked us from the roadblock, waited until the hunters weaken me enough to strike. His hand leaves my waist to trace the chain still attached to my wrist, and I realize with a jolt of understanding that he didn't chain me to keep me prisoner, but to keep me tethered to him when the fighting starts. The first wolf crashes through the doorway before I can process this revelation, its body massive and black as midnight, eyes glowing amber with the light of the beast that lives beneath human skin. King Caius shoves me behind him as he steps forward, and I watch his shoulders broaden as the change he's been fighting finally breaks free, his spine arching as bones reshape and fur bursts through torn clothing. The silver bullet's poison makes his transformation brutal to witness, blood streaming from his nose as his jaw elongates into a muzzle filled with teeth designed for tearing. More wolves pour through the entrance, their pack spreading across the chamber like oil across water, and I press my back against the war map table as King Caius positions himself between them and me. His growl starts low in his chest, building to something that shakes dust from the ceiling as he stands his ground despite the poison eating him alive from within. The rival alpha emerges last, his fur silver gray and eyes the color of winter ice, his lips pulling back to reveal canines longer than my fingers as he surveys the chamber with the confidence of a conqueror. "King Caius," the alpha says, his voice carrying the weight of old magic as he shifts smoothly into human form, standing naked and unashamed before us. "You've been keeping secrets from the council, hiding something that belongs to all of us beneath your mountain." His gaze shifts to me, and I feel something ancient and hungry stir in response to his attention, a recognition that makes my skin crawl with the knowledge that whatever I am, whatever gift I carry, these wolves have come to claim it. King Caius doesn't bother with words, his response coming as a snarl that sends several of the younger wolves scrambling backward despite their numbers' advantage. He steps back until his body touches mine, and I feel the tremor that runs through him as the silver works deeper, making his legs shake with the effort of staying upright. The chain between us clinks softly as I move without thinking, my hand finding the thick ruff of fur at his neck, where the poison hasn't reached yet. "She's mine," he manages to growl, the words distorted by his changed mouth, and I feel the truth of it resonate through whatever bond connects us across miles of wilderness. The rival alpha laughs, the sound like breaking glass as he takes another step into the chamber, his pack fanning out to surround us in a tightening circle that leaves no escape routes except through them. "Nothing is yours when you're too weak to defend it," the alpha says, his eyes never leaving my face as he speaks to King Caius. "The girl carries the old blood, the gift that was lost when your line murdered the last keeper. We've waited centuries for another to manifest, and now you expect us to believe you've claimed her through some accident of fate." My fingers tighten in King Caius's fur as understanding crashes through me, the pieces of the puzzle that started with his kiss in the forest finally clicking into place. The gift they want, the secret that makes me valuable enough to kill for, flows through my veins like liquid fire as the rival alpha's words wake something that's been sleeping inside my blood since birth. King Caius's head turns slightly toward me, and I see his golden eyes widen as he feels the change that ripples through me, the power that answers the alpha's hunger with something far older than wolf or man. The first wolf attacks without warning, springing toward us with jaws gaping wide enough to swallow my head whole, and King Caius meets it mid-leap despite the poison that should have dropped him hours ago. His teeth close around the wolf's throat as they crash to the stone floor together, and I watch him tear through fur and flesh with the desperation of a king defending his kingdom with his last breath. The chain snaps taut between us as I jerk away from the table, my own hands changing as something inside me answers the violence with a need to fight rather than flee. Two more wolves charge as their packmate dies beneath King Chaos's jaws, and I move without thinking, my body flowing into the space beside him as we fight back to back for the first time since this nightmare began. My fist connects with wolf bone, feeling it crunch beneath my knuckles as something that isn't quite human strength floods through my limbs. King Chaos's tail brushes my leg as he spins to face another attacker, and I feel his heartbeat through the chain that still binds us together, each beat counting down the moments until the silver finishes what the rival pack started. The alpha watches from the doorway as his wolves die around us, his expression calculating as he studies the way we move together, like dancers who have practiced this choreography for years instead of minutes. Blood coats the stone floor beneath our feet, mixing from wounds I can't tell apart anymore as King Chaos, and I fight as one creature with two bodies, the chain between us becoming a weapon as I whip it across a wolf's face hard enough to tear flesh from bone. Enough, the alpha commands as the last of his wolves falls, his voice cutting through the snarls and screams like a blade through silk. King Chaos stands swaying beside me, his chest heaving as the poison finally overwhelms him, his legs buckling as he drops to his knees on the blood-slick stone. I catch him without thinking, my hands finding his shoulders as he leans against me, his weight suddenly too heavy for him to bear alone. King Chaos's muzzle brushes my throat as he breathes my name, the sound so human despite his changed form that my chest tightens with something that has nothing to do with fear or the gift these wolves want to steal. The alpha steps over the bodies of his dead packmates without glancing down, his eyes fixed on me as he approaches with the patience of a predator who knows his prey has nowhere left to run. The gift manifests in blood and battle, he says, his hand reaching toward me as King Chaos growls weakly against my neck. But it answers to the strongest, not they. The iron shackle bites deeper into my wrist as King Chaos drags me through the corridor, his silver-poisoned blood dripping onto the stones behind us. The alpha's words still echo in my ears. The gift answers to the strongest, and I feel the strange warmth in my chest responding to King Chaos's weakness, to the way his massive frame trembles with each step. Torchlight flickers across ancient stone walls carved with wolf symbols that seem to writhe in the dancing flames, and I realize we're descending deeper into the mountain fortress, away from the battle still raging at the gates. King Chaos stumbles against the wall, his breathing ragged as silver veins spread like spider webs beneath his skin. His grip on the shackle chain loosens just enough for me to see the black spreading from the bullet wounds in his shoulder, the poison working faster than any werewolf healing should allow. The hunter's bullets weren't meant to kill immediately. They were meant to force him to change, to make him vulnerable, and now the rival pack storms his gates while their alpha hunts for me in the corridors above. My free hand reaches instinctively toward his fevered skin, the gift inside me stirring restlessly as if it recognizes another predator in distress. "Stop touching me," King Chaos growls, but his voice carries none of its usual authority, and when he turns to face me, his eyes flicker between human gray and wolf gold. The transformation battles against the silver, his body caught between healing and destruction, and I understand suddenly why he shackled me, why he couldn't risk me running while he's weak enough for even a human woman to escape. His chest heaves with effort as he straightens, pulling me forward again, and I notice how the corridor opens into a vast chamber lined with weapons racks and maps covering every wall. The war room spreads before us like a tactical nightmare, red markers scattered across hand-drawn territories showing enemy positions, and I see how the rival pack has already breached the outer defenses. King Chaos releases the shackle with a key he produces from somewhere in his torn clothing, his movements careful despite his obvious agony. "The gift can heal silver poisoning," he says, his voice rough with pain and something else. Hope, perhaps, or desperation, as he sinks into a chair covered in wolf pelts. "But it requires physical contact, and I won't force you to." His words cut off as a howl echoes through the stone corridors, closer than before, and I recognize the alpha's voice calling to his packmates. They're inside the fortress now, hunting us room by room, and King Chaos's warriors are either dead or fighting desperately to hold the gates. The gift pulses warm in my chest, responding to his suffering in a way that terrifies me, because I understand what he's not saying, that healing him means accepting whatever this connection is between us, means surrendering to the instinct that makes me want to touch him despite every rational thought screaming for me to run. I step closer to where he sits, my hands trembling as I reach for the torn fabric of his shirt. The wounds beneath are worse than I thought, silver poisoning, turning his skin gray around the bullet holes. And I know without understanding how, that the gift works through skin-to-skin contact. His eyes meet mine as my fingers make contact with his fevered chest, and the warmth inside me surges forward like a living thing, flowing through my hands into his body. King Caius's head falls back, a sound between a groan and a growl escaping his throat as the silver veins begin to retreat, his skin returning to its natural bronze tone. The connection flares hotter between us, and suddenly I'm seeing through his eyes, memories of battles fought, of packmates lost, of years spent alone because no one could match his strength or understand the burden of leadership. His hands find my waist, pulling me closer as the healing continues, and I feel his wolf consciousness brushing against mine, testing, tasting, recognizing something in me that responds with equal hunger. The gift isn't just healing his body. It's binding us together in ways I don't understand, making me aware of every breath he takes, every beat of his heart against my palms. Footsteps echo in the corridor outside, heavy and deliberate, and we both know the Alpha has found us. King Caius stands, his strength fully restored, but he doesn't release me as he positions himself between the door and where I stand. "Whatever happens," he says, his voice steady now, commanding, "the gift chose you, which means you're under my protection until you choose otherwise." His hand finds mine, fingers intertwining in a gesture that feels more intimate than any kiss, and I realize he's offering me something no werewolf has ever given a human: choice, agency, the right to decide my own fate even if it means denying him. The door explodes inward, wood splintering as the Alpha steps through, his massive form filling the entrance. Behind him, I count at least 6 other wolves in human form, all bearing the scars of battle, all focused on me with predatory intensity. King Caius's grip tightens on my hand, and I feel his body tensing for the fight, but the Alpha holds up one clawed hand. "I don't want to kill you, old friend," he says, his voice carrying the weight of ancient history between them. "But the human carries something that belongs to all wolves, not just your pack." King Caius steps forward, placing himself fully between me and the threat, his voice dropping to something that makes the stone walls vibrate. "She carries my mark now," he says, and I feel the truth of it burning where his hand touches mine, the gift having forged something permanent between us during the healing. "Which makes her my mate under pack law, and anyone who tries to take her answers to me." The words send electricity through my body, the claim settling into my bones with rightness that terrifies me more than the wolves surrounding us. The Alpha's eyes narrow, calculating, as he studies the way we stand together, the way my body leans instinctively toward King Caius despite every rational thought telling me to maintain distance. "She hasn't accepted you," he observes, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who recognizes opportunity. "The bond isn't complete, which means she's still free to choose." His gaze shifts to me, golden and compelling, and I feel the weight of an impossible decision settling on my shoulders as both packs wait for my answer. My heart hammers against my ribs as I understand what they're really asking, not just which pack I'll join, but which man I'll claim as my own. King Caius turns to face me, his gray eyes storm dark with emotion he doesn't speak, but his hand remains steady in mine, giving me the choice he's promised even with enemies surrounding us. The gift pulses between us, responding to his nearness, to the way he stands ready to fight his own kind to protect my right to choose, and I realize the decision was made the moment I touched him to heal his wounds. "I choose him," I say, my voice steady despite the trembling in my legs, and King Caius's mouth crushes against mine before the words finish leaving my lips. The kiss burns through me like wildfire, his free hand tangling in my hair as he pulls me against his chest, claiming me in front of his enemies and his pack alike. The Alpha snarls behind us, but King Caius breaks the kiss only long enough to growl, "She's mine," before his mouth finds mine again, and I feel the bond snapping into place between us, permanent and unbreakable as the mountains surrounding us. The bond snaps into place like a steel cable around my ribs, and suddenly I can feel King Caius's heartbeat hammering against my chest, his blood burning with silver poison and something darker that makes my knees buckle. His mouth claims mine again, and the taste of him floods through me, wilderness and winter, and the metallic tang of death creeping closer with every ragged breath he takes. My hands find his shoulders, fingers digging into muscle that ripples beneath his skin like something alive and hungry, and I realize he's holding back the change by sheer force of will, keeping the wolf caged because if he shifts now, the silver will kill him faster than any bullet. The alpha behind us snarls again, but the sound fades as King Caius breaks the kiss, his golden eyes blazing into mine with a possession that should terrify me, but instead sends heat pooling low in my stomach. "Run," he growls against my lips, his voice already deepening into something not quite human, and I feel the word vibrate through my bones like a promise and a warning wrapped together. "Take the pups and run before the hunters track your scent here, before my pack realizes what you carry inside you." My blood turns to ice water in my veins because I never told him about the children hidden in the van's wreckage, never mentioned the way their small bodies trembled against mine as I carried them through the forest with hunters closing in like wolves themselves. His hand slides down to grip my wrist, and I feel the tremor running through him, the way his skin burns hot enough to brand me even through the silver's poison working through his system like liquid fire. "You know," I whisper, and the words taste like ash because if he knows about the pups, then he knows why I have to leave, why I can't stay here wrapped in his arms while death stalks us through stone corridors. "3 heartbeats," he says, his voice dropping lower as his eyes flash toward the darkness beyond the torchlight where the mountain fortress stretches deeper into stone and shadow. 3 small heartbeats calling to you like you're their salvation, and maybe you are, but you're mine first, Lyra. Mine before any pack or prophecy or power that thinks it can claim you. His fingers tighten around my wrist, and I feel the way his pulse stutters, the way each heartbeat costs him more strength as the silver works deeper into his blood, turning his veins to rivers of burning metal beneath his skin. The corridor stretches behind us toward the medical wing where his pack healer waits with needles and herbs, and the kind of knowledge that might save him if the poison hasn't already reached his heart. I can smell antiseptic and mountain sage, can hear the low murmur of voices raised in argument about whether their king will survive the night, whether the silver bullet lodged near his spine will let him keep breathing long enough for his wolf to burn it out. But King Caius steps backward, pulling me with him toward a narrow passage I hadn't noticed before. A crack in the stone that leads away from safety and deeper into the mountain's belly, where no one will find us unless they know where to look. "Where are we going?" I ask as my feet stumble over loose stones, and I feel the way his grip shifts to steady me even as his own steps grow less certain. The poison stealing coordination from muscles that should be able to carry us both. The torchlight fades behind us as we move deeper into darkness that smells of earth and something older, something that makes the power in my chest stir and stretch like it recognizes this place, like it remembers stone and shadow and the weight of centuries pressing down from above. "The old ways," he breathes against my neck, his mouth finding the sensitive skin just below my ear as he pushes me against cold stone, and I feel the way his body trembles now, the way each breath costs him more than the last. "The paths my grandfather showed me when I was just a pup, before I understood that being king means being alone, before I knew that power is just another word for isolation wrapped in gold and ceremony." His teeth graze my throat, and I feel the way his wolf rises closer to the surface, the way his skin ripples as if something beneath is trying to break free despite the silver burning through his veins. My hands find his face in the darkness, fingers tracing the sharp lines of cheekbones and jaw that feel more angular now, more predatory as his body fights the poison by becoming more wolf than man. "You're dying," I say, and the words taste like copper because I can feel it in the bond between us, can feel the way his life force flickers like a candle in high wind, beautiful and fragile and moments away from going out forever. The pups are waiting somewhere beyond these walls, waiting for me to return and lead them away from this place where death walks on 2 legs and wears the faces of men who should know better than to hunt children. "We're all dying," he growls, and then his mouth finds mine again, but this kiss feels different, desperate and claiming, and like he's trying to memorize the taste of me before the darkness takes him completely. But some of us get to choose how we spend the time we have left, and I choose you, Lyra. I choose this moment with you pressed against stone, and my hands learning the map of your body by heart. His fingers slide beneath my shirt, and I gasp at the heat of his touch, at the way his skin burns like he's carrying the sun inside his bones, even as the silver works to turn that same fire into ice. The sound of footsteps echoes from somewhere behind us, voices calling his name with urgency that tells me his pack has realized he's gone, that their king is wandering wounded through forgotten passages, while death stalks him with patient hunger. King Caius pulls back just enough to rest his forehead against mine, and I feel the way his breathing has changed, the way each inhale rattles now like stones grinding together deep in his chest. "They'll find us soon," he whispers, and I can taste the metallic tang of blood on his breath, can feel the way his heart stutters against the bond that ties us together like chains forged from starlight and need. But before they do, before the healer pumps me full of drugs that might save me or might kill me faster, I need you to understand what you're carrying inside you, why the hunters want those pups almost as much as they want you. My blood turns to winter in my veins because I never told him about the way the children cling to me like I'm their last hope. Never explained how I found them huddled in the wreckage of their pack's massacre, with eyes too old for their small faces, and the scent of something ancient clinging to their skin like morning mist. "What do you know about them?" I ask, and my voice comes out steady even though my hands are shaking against his chest, where I can feel his heart laboring to keep beating, to keep pumping poison through veins that should be strong enough to burn it away, but aren't because the silver was forged specifically to kill wolves like him. "Enough to know that you're not just running from hunters," he says, and his fingers find the pulse point in my throat, tracing it like he's counting the beats of my heart against his palm. "Those pups carry the old blood, the first blood, the kind that hasn't run through pack veins since before my grandfather's grandfather claimed this mountain for his own." His voice drops to something barely above a whisper as footsteps grow closer, torchlight beginning to flicker against stone walls that have kept secrets for longer than human memory stretches. "And you, Lyra, you carry something even older, something that answers when they call, something that makes you their natural guardian even though you don't understand why your chest burns when they cry, why your hands know how to touch them like you've done it for lifetimes before this one." The bond between us pulses like a living thing, and I feel the moment his knees buckle, feel the way his strength finally gives out as the silver reaches some critical threshold inside his blood. I catch him as he falls, my arms wrapping around shoulders that feel too sharp beneath my hands, too angular as his body tries to become wolf and man simultaneously, while the poison tears through both forms like acid through paper. His weight drives us both to our knees on cold stone, and I feel the way his breathing changes, the way each exhale becomes a low whine that tells me the change is coming whether he wants it or not, whether the silver will let him survive it or not. "King Caius," I whisper against his hair as his head drops against my shoulder, and I feel the way his arms come around me like steel bands even as his strength fails, like he's trying to hold me here in this moment forever, like he's trying to keep me safe from what's coming even though we both know it's already too late for that kind of protection. The footsteps are closer now, voices calling with more urgency, but I can feel something else too, a low humming that seems to come from the stone itself, from the mountain that remembers when wolves and humans first learned to fear each other, when the gift inside my chest first woke to answer the call of small voices crying in darkness. His mouth finds my throat again. His mouth finds my throat again, and the mountain's pulse answers, stone vibrating through my spine as his teeth scrape skin without breaking, claiming without taking, and the pups huddle against my legs whining because they feel the same tremor I do, something ancient waking beneath our feet. The torches lining the spiral stair gutter in sudden wind that shouldn't exist this deep underground, flames bowing toward the cavern heart below, and King Caius's breath burns cold against my neck as his arms tighten around my ribs where his heartbeat now lives inside my chest, thudding double time with mine. I taste copper and winter, and the moment I realize the silver poisoning has spread to his tongue, because the bond feeds me every sensation he suffers. The stone beneath us cracks, a hairline fracture racing downward toward the dark, and the pups yelp as the stair shudders. Footsteps thunder above, hunters pouring through the broken gate we left gaping, and King Caius lifts his head, eyes glowing wolf gold in the torchlight, while his human voice rips apart into something between growl and words. "Run, Lyra," he rasps, but the bond jerks me backward when he tries to push me away. our heartbeats snarling in counterpoint because neither of us can leave while the other stays. The pups surge around my calves, small bodies pressing me toward the descending stair, and I feel their terror through the same tether that chains me to the dying king, their tiny hearts fluttering like trapped birds against my shins. My hand closes around the nearest pup's scruff, and I move because movement is survival, dragging all four with me down the spiral, as King Caius turns to face the hunters spilling onto the landing above. His shoulders expanding with the change that silver forces on him, bones cracking loud as the mountain itself. The stair curves into blackness, and I follow it because the only alternative is watching him die twice, once by bullet and once by bond, and I already carry his poisoned pulse like a second skin sewn beneath my ribs. The pups keep pace, claws skittering on stone, and behind us the first hunter screams as wolf hits human flesh, the sound wet and final, echoing down the shaft like a promise of what waits for any of us if we slow. Cold air rises from below, carrying the scent of deep earth and old blood, and I know without seeing that the heart cavern opens at the bottom, the place where the mountain's gift first woke inside my chest when I was a child crying in darkness. My bare feet slap stone, and I feel every vibration doubling through the bond. King Caius's paws pounding above as he fights, his pain lancing through my shoulders where claws rake, his rage boiling in my throat where fangs tear, and still I run because the pups deserve better than becoming orphans again. The stair ends in a cavern so vast torchlight can't find the far wall, and I skid into black space, pups tumbling with me onto sand that glitters with mica and crushed bone. The mountain's hum deepens until it sings inside my bones, the same frequency as the gift, and I understand suddenly that this place is the source, the cradle, the reason every pack wanted me dead or claimed. King Caius's howl tears through stone above, my name ripping from his throat in a sound that isn't human anymore, and the bond jerks me hard enough my knees buckle because he's falling, bleeding out under silver fire, and the throne he guarded for 15 years means nothing if my heart stops beating inside his chest. I push upright, palms stinging where sand sliced skin, and the pups cluster against my ankles, whining as they stare into the dark that breathes like something alive. Torches flare along the cavern wall one by one, igniting without touch, revealing the altar stone at the center where chains wait open like jaws, and I realize King Caius brought me here to finish what the bond started. His life knotted to mine until the mountain decides which heartbeat deserves to continue. The pups press closer, and I feel their small bodies shaking, four tiny souls who followed me into exile because they believed my power could protect them, never knowing the curse clings to me like smoke, poisoning every pack I touch. My chest burns where his heartbeat pounds, each thud weaker than the last, and I understand the choice forming in the dark. Chain myself to the altar and feed him forever, or let the bond snap and kill us both while hunters close in from above. Neither option saves the pups. Stone grinds behind me, and I spin as a hidden door slides open in the cavern wall, revealing a tunnel sloping deeper into the mountain's roots, where air tastes of snow and pine even though we stand far below daylight. The mountain offers escape, but the bond jerks me toward the altar, King Caius's blood dripping from my nose as his injuries become mine, and I stagger because dying kings drag their anchors down with them. The pups bolt into the tunnel, tiny paws scrabbling for distance, and their terror snaps something loose inside my chest. The gift unfurling like wings I never asked for, power rushing outward in a wave that slams against the cavern walls and answers the mountain's hum with my own voice. For the first time I don't fight it, don't shove it down, don't apologize for existing, and the stone beneath my feet cracks wider as I turn toward the stair where hunters descend with silver glinting like starlight in their hands. King Caius crashes onto the landing above, wolf body hitting stone with a sound that breaks bone, and through the bond I feel his heart stutter, skip, almost stop. The altar chains rattle as if stirred by wind, calling the bond to complete the sacrifice, but I step away from them, power blazing through my veins like wildfire racing through drought-dry forest, and I move toward the stair because I choose who lives and dies tonight. The mountain shudders around me, recognizing the moment its ancient gift slips the leash of bloodline and crown, and I climb to meet the hunters with nothing but bare hands and the certainty that the mountain stands behind me, not behind the crown. Each step down the spiral stair sends vibrations through the stone, and I feel the living heart of this place beating in time with my own pulse, no longer bound to the dying wolf who claimed it by conquest. The pups scramble after me, their small claws clicking against the rock, and I hear their whimpers echoing off the walls as they sense the shift in power that even I barely understand. My hands are still bare, still empty, yet the air around them shimmers with the heat of something ancient and awake, something that answers to my blood now instead of his. The stair curves downward into darkness, but I do not slow because the mountain lights the way for me, veins of pale crystal flaring to life in the walls as I pass, guiding me toward the surface where the hunters wait with their silver and their hatred. I can smell them now, the bitter stink of metal and fear, and I know they have come for King Caius, not knowing he is already dying in the chamber above, his heart tied to mine by a bond that will break us both if I fail. The pups press closer, their small bodies brushing my legs, and I do not push them away because they are part of this now, part of the mountain's choice, part of the future I am carving from the bones of the past. The stair ends in a narrow tunnel that slopes upward, and I follow it, the air growing colder as I climb toward the night, toward the square where the hunters have gathered with their torches and their guns, where they believe they will end the reign of the Wolf King. I emerge from the mountain's mouth like something born, not hiding, not running, and the first hunter sees me and raises his rifle. But the pups snarl in unison, their small voices rising into something that sounds like thunder, and the man hesitates. I walk past him without touching him, without looking at him, because he is not the threat anymore, and I feel the mountain's power curling around me like a cloak, heavy and warm and alive. The square is filled with hunters, their trucks idling, their boots crunching snow, their eyes wide as they see me walking barefoot through the drifts, the pups trailing like shadows, and no one fires because they do not understand what they are seeing. Then King Caius steps from the darkness at the far end, his shirt torn open, his chest heaving, blood running black down his skin, and his eyes are gold fire, and he moves like death itself, no longer human, no longer pretending. He crosses the square in 3 strides, claws flashing, and the first hunter dies before he can scream, the sound cut off as those claws tear through throat and spine alike. The others raise their weapons, but he is already among them, a blur of fur and fury, and I watch as he rips them apart. Not for sport, not for vengeance, but because this is what he is, what he was always meant to be, and the mountain accepts the blood he spills. Bodies fall, silver bullets scatter across the snow, and still he does not stop, does not slow, until the last hunter drops to his knees, begging, and King Caius sinks his teeth into the man's neck and ends it with a single shake. Silence falls, heavy and complete, and he stands in the center of the carnage, chest rising and falling, blood dripping from his mouth, and then he turns toward me. He crosses the square, stepping over corpses, and drops to one knee in the snow at my feet, his head bowed, his claws resting palm up on his thighs like a knight surrendering sword and shield. "Lyra," he says, voice rough, broken, "the mountain chose you and I choose you, and every wolf within these peaks will know you as queen." The pups push past me, pressing against him, licking the blood from his hands, and he does not stop them, does not move, waiting for my answer. I look at the bodies, at the snow stained red, at the man who chained me and bound me and still somehow gave me the power to stand here unafraid. "Get up," I say, and my voice is steady, not because I am calm, but because the mountain steadies me. He rises, slow, towering over me, and his eyes search my face for judgment, for mercy, for anything I might offer. "Take me home," I tell him, and I turn toward the mountain path, the pups falling in behind us, their small paws leaving tracks beside ours in the blood-spattered snow. The mountain door grinds shut behind us, and the pups surge past my legs, their claws skittering across the stone as they race into the tunnel ahead. King Caius walks beside me, his chains clinking with every step, the silver poisoning turning his skin gray beneath the torn shirt. I feel his heartbeat through the bond, a slow drum that keeps time with my own, and I know he is waiting for me to speak first. The air inside the mountain tastes of iron and old snow, and the walls pulse with a rhythm that matches the pups' excited yips. I reach out, brushing my fingers along the living stone, and the mountain answers with a low hum that vibrates through my bones. "It chose me," I say, the words falling into the dark like stones into a well. King Caius stops walking, his breath rasping, and I turn to face him under the flickering torchlight. His eyes hold no denial, only exhaustion and something rower, something that might be relief. "It was never mine," he answers, voice rough as gravel. "It was waiting for someone it could trust." The pups circle back, pressing against my calves, and I understand they are not following him anymore. They are following me. I start walking again, descending the spiral path toward the heart of the mountain, and he falls in step, chains dragging a whisper across the floor. Every level we pass, the temperature rises, and the scent of pine resin grows stronger, as though the mountain itself bleeds. I feel the moment we cross the threshold into the deeper caverns, because the bond tightens, pulling a gasp from my throat. King Caius steadies me with a hand on my elbow, the contact burning despite the silver sickness in his blood. "You can break it," he says, low and urgent. "The bond. Now that the mountain obeys you, you can sever the chain." I study his face, seeing the man who dragged me here, who bled for me, who knelt in the snow and called me queen before his wolves. "And if I do, you die," I say, the truth tasting bitter. He does not deny it, only looks at me with those gold eyes dulled by poison. Ahead, the tunnel opens into a vast chamber lit by veins of quartz glowing faint blue, and the pups dash forward, tumbling over one another in their haste. At the center lies a pool of water black as obsidian, its surface perfectly still. I walk to the edge, feeling the mountain's attention focusing here, in this room that smells of earth and fur and ancient breath. King Caius stops a pace behind me, his presence a furnace at my back. "Submerge the chains," I tell him, the knowledge rising unbidden. "The mountain will draw the silver out." He hesitates, pride warring with survival, then steps forward and lowers himself into the water, clothes and all. The chains sink, hissing as the metal touches the surface, and the pool lights up with silver threads that swirl around him like captive moonlight. I kneel at the edge, plunging my hands into the cold water, and the bond flares wide open. Pain crashes through me, his pain, and I clench my jaw to keep from screaming. The pups whine, pacing the shore, but they do not flee. Instead, they press closer, lending their small strength to me as I anchor him to life. Slowly, the silver lifts from his veins, drawn out by the mountain's will, and the water turns clear again. When he rises, droplets cascade from his shoulders, and the chains lie broken at his feet. He draws a breath, deep and ragged, color returning to his skin, and his eyes meet mine with something like wonder. "You stayed," he says, voice rough with wonder. I stand, water streaming from my fingers, and the pups surge around my legs, yipping their relief. "I'm not done with you," I answer, the words surprising us both. A sound echoes from the tunnel behind us, distant but growing, paws on stone, many of them moving fast. The pack is coming, drawn by the breaking of the chains and the shift of power. King Caius steps from the pool, bare feet silent on the rock, and reaches for my hand. "They will test you," he warns, fingers closing around mine. "Let them," I say, squeezing back, and I feel the mountain stand with me, solid and unyielding. We turn together to face the entrance, the pups flanking us like small sentinels, and the first wolves burst into the chamber, eyes glowing green and gold in the quartz light. They skid to a halt, taking in the broken chains, the water our joined hand.